Over the past year, the words of Refaat Alareer have stayed deep within my consciousness. They've made an impact that will last a lifetime. Growing up, I always wondered where the activists were. Where were the movements, the people fighting to make this place better? The revolution. I had a growing knowledge of the movements of the 60s and 70s and repeatedly inquired where the action went. And no matter who I posed the question to, the answer remained the same. It's over. It was so long ago, we don't need it anymore. But didn't we? Hi, I'm Alexis. I'm a full-time artist here in New York City, sharing my life and love of this city, as well as my processes and inspirations, why I am who I am, and why I create what I create with my art practice, Paper for the People. If you're new here, welcome. I hope for nothing more than for this to grow into a community where we have conversations with one another and share ideas. Growing up, I had been sold the idea that there was equality in America, that there was no need for a liberation movement because, well, we had achieved Dr. King's dream. But as I observed the world, it didn't add up. There was a very tangible disconnect between what I was told and what I observed in the communities around me, both here in America and around the world. This past August, 10 years later, we reflected on the murder of Michael Brown at the hands of the police and the subsequent Ferguson protests that shaped so many of the conversations we have today around race and the militarization of police. During the Black Lives Matter movement in St. Louis, the call for revolution was persistent. And it was around the time of Ferguson that I was first introduced to Scott-Heron and his work, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. I remember there being tremendous discourse around this piece and Ferguson, with an argument made that it would be televised. Because for the first time in history, I and millions around the world could watch the protests live as they unfolded in the streets of my hometown in St. Louis. For weeks from New York, we watched on Twitter as people gathered in the streets of St. Louis and were met with militarized brute force. And I say, with my whole chest, that it was without a doubt one of the most pivotal moments of my life. There was a before Ferguson and an after. As I participated in marches during this time, I would see signs about Palestine and how Ferguson and Palestine were fighting the same fight. How Ferguson was Palestine and Palestine was Ferguson. And this initiated a need to learn more, to grow a deeper understanding, to really begin to see beyond the veil, to learn the stories of those not readily shared, often quite systematically eliminated in an attempt to control the narrative and therefore power. I knew I owed it to myself and to my community to seek a growing knowledge of the power structures that protect empires over people so that I could better show up for my community and stand for and with the people. And now, we have watched for over a year as a genocide takes place in Palestine. And I say once again, with my whole chest, that there was a time before Gaza, and there is now. And now where we have been forever changed as we have witnessed the brutality of empire against a people. And there, once again, have been many calls for revolution. And the work of Scott-Heron has once again surfaced in this pivotal moment. But now, a decade later, the discourse has shifted yet again. In a time in history in which genocide may be live-streamed, where the atrocities meet us in our homes half a world away, perhaps now more than ever we may begin to understand the true meaning of Scott-Heron's work. Because we know that there is greater access to information, to people, and to story than ever before. However, this access does not bring the seismic shift that we may so desperately yearn for. Because even with this access to humanity, so many are unable, so many refuse to see how we are all connected, how we all belong to one another, and how the people are the responsibility of the people. There is a growing understanding that the revolution cannot be televised because it must happen within, and that this is what Gil Scott-Heron meant. The revolution does not take place through observation. One may observe countless uprisings and fail to hear, to see, to truly understand the fight of the people. It must take place within. The revolution cannot be televised because it is the internal work of the individual. The revolution is a shift, an awakening, and an awareness that grows within the individual once they are ready to face the truth about the power structures of our world and the harms they perpetuate to protect empire. The revolution is the realization of our role in creating the path forward to the future that we dream is possible, not simply accepting what has been. The revolution is the breaking open to the deep knowing that it is all connected, that we are all connected. The revolution happens when we step into the knowledge that the people have the power and can create a new society, one built on mutual aid and community care, one built on systems of support, and one that honors our full humanity, all of us. It happens when we see one another, protect one another, and value the people over profit, over empire. There is a reason why stories, why narratives are so vehemently controlled, a reason why book bans are on the rise here in America. There is power in sharing your story. There is power in accessing story. There is power when we commune, a revolution ready to ignite because the people united will never be defeated. As we now reflect on a year of genocide, on the atrocities that have been perpetuated on the people of Palestine, I come back to the words of Refaat Alareer. If I must die, you must live, to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze, and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale. On this day, I wish nothing more than for you to find the courage to pursue your revolution, to find the stories that break you open and expand your understanding of humanity and our responsibility to one another. And lastly, whatever time of day you've watched this, I hope it's been a kind one. Until next time.